I know there's a section in your book where you was talking about, like, you did a Ironman marathon or something like that.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you guys know, but look, this is what this competition consists of. Let me know if I'm off on anything now. From my research, this consists of a 2.4 mile swim, a 112 mile bike run, and a 26.2 mile run. Now, are those measures sound about right? And now, my
26 miles for people that know is a marathon. So essentially, finish this off with marathon.
Jesus, like, that's crazy. Now, how in the world did you build your mind and your body to do something like that, and how did it impact your life afterwards?
Yeah, so I think the takeaway is that that's a hard thing, and so I use it as an example. But I re-engineered it so that it was fun for me, right? And so again, I think this isn't gonna I think all of us have different ways we want to live our life. But if you want to live your life more joyfully, here's my suggestion, and that is I unpacked it to do it in a way that fit me, right? You have all of these gurus and fitness folks saying, you got to grind it out and work out this many hours. And it's more of like this, exercise and sacrifice, right? I was like, it doesn't have to be, I kind of just carved my own path on the side. I was like, okay, what is it? You don't want to do the absolute minimum because that can break, right? Like, then you're really rolling the dice like, oh, okay, so I did the absolute minimum. Hopefully this works, right? But what's enough where the odds are in my favor that I'm going to do it?
Right.
And also, how can I create this training so that each one's enjoyable? So for running, it was running with friends because I love that, or running with music, like especially now with exercise. I'm a product of the 90s, so I like, rap from that era, but I don't like the lyrics for my kids to hear.
Right.
So I look forward to training with that, and that makes it enjoyable.
Right.
So I add that element of fun so that, the work gets done. For biking, I didn't even like biking with people. One, I got scared that I was going to run into them. Two, I didn't really. So I bought a contraption that essentially turned biking. This was way before Peloton, by the way. It was 2004. So there was this thing, I had to buy it used because it was expensive, but called a CompuTrainer that essentially turned your bike into a Peloton, which at the time was pretty, novel because Peloton was 10 years away. So here I was, essentially playing a video game to, train on the bike. And for the swim, it was new, so it was novel. So that was all that. And then I realized I was never going to do it for time, right? So I took that burden off me. I was like, the only outcome I'm going to worry about is actually finishing the race. And so I figured out what are sort of the buffers that I need so that each section gets done, but that I never feel this sense of like, okay, I need to do it for this time. Right. And so flipping all that, it basically became a Boolean choice for me, yes or no. Am I going to do it or am I not? And so I solved for just getting it done rather than, making it overly complex rather. And because of that, I enjoyed the whole process. Like,
awesome.
Because I love music so much, one of the wacky things I did, I didn't put it in the book because that story got too long, but I essentially set up speakers on my bike. They won't allow you to wear headphones rightfully because you can't hear traffic, so it puts you in danger. And I was like, but there's nothing in the rules about, and no one would do that because all these guys are so crazy about their time. Like, the speakers add friction and, probably like added a couple seconds to my bike ride. I could care less because I was booming music like the whole, it was 11 hours on this stupid thing.
Jesus,
and so getting to listen to music and just the smiles of people that
going by,
inevitably passed me because I was slow. But they were like, "What?" and so just like getting a little giggle in too, man. It made the whole thing fun for me. Where other folks like. I mean, they're crazy enough, this is all on the internet. They're crazy enough. They just, pee in their, because they don't want to stop, because they're trying to shave off seconds. So, but I think, so here's an amazing hard thing that only very few folks do. But I think anyone could really do it if they approached it in that way. And it's a good metaphor for life where we all tend to think we have to be martyrs to do the hard stuff. Right. And like, you don't. There are a lot of examples of folks out there having fun and enjoying it, but it also does require to see how can you decouple the outcome focus that isn't necessary for what you're trying to achieve.
Right. So what type of impact you think, did it have an impact on your life afterwards, after you did achieve it and then made it fun as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was like, I essentially can do anything I put my mind to.
Yeah, big time.
I think that's what those, what we call big, hairy, audacious goals can do, right? Like you get past it and you get past it on your own terms,
There you go.
Then, I mean, yeah, it's just, you look at the people that are having fun, right? Like the first person that came to mind is Steph Curry. Like how everyone's like, no, you shouldn't, you shouldn't shoot three. You're ruining the game. You can tell he doesn't care. He's out there having fun.
He's having a ball,
winning games, right?
Yeah.
And like, yet all the critics like, well, that's not how that's not how basketball was invented. Like, what does that even mean? Right. And so I would like back to the Iron Man story. Like, what? You're not supposed to put a boombox on your bike.
Right.
No one told me I couldn't.
Yeah. And you made it fun for you. And now I got to know the 90s rap. Like, come on. What was what was kind of like your top 3 in your 90s rappers like you maybe listen to?
Well, Beastie Boys is one of my favorite bands.
Okay, yeah.
And then probably Tribe and Method Man, because we got to my wife and I when we first met, actually, Method and Redman were doing videos in there, so we got to meet him. He was cool.
Oh, you met him?
Yeah.
That's cool. Was it like at a show or like?
No, he was shooting his video.
Get out of here!
I forget which song it was because Meth and him have done a few, but it was one they were doing together. And we didn't get to meet Method Man, but we got to meet Redman. And then I still like Jay-Z quite a bit, and that's about. Like Dre and Snoop Dogg, obviously, but I've listened to it so much when I hear it now, and then, you know what? So, like, I really, really like DJ Quick, because he was a local.
You can't let your kids hear that.
Yeah. And also, I don't feel like it, not putting out, because I still like it, but I don't like it as much as I did. Like, I feel like that was party music, so I liked it because.
And it's crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you hear it, it's like, I can't believe he was saying that, especially back then.
Yeah. And
know
like,
what I'm saying?
Who was his partner that did Vertical Joyride?
I don't remember.
That had that like crazy beat. You know what I'm talking about?
I can't hear it, the name. I don't know the name.
Right. I can't.
Well, and you guys are probably a lot younger than me, so I don't understand.
And I was big in it. Like I was big on the 90s hip hop for sure. I was born in 86.
Okay.
85 for me.
72. So I got some years.
We got a few years.
No, but I was a DJ, so all that stuff was fun for me. And like West Side Connection, and it was all fun just to see, and but just how it came together and the whole history there, it's still being talked about, and like I don't know, have you guys for anyone that's listening, you got it was an SNL skit with Questlove, and they were kind of lampooning just how ridiculous rap has gotten. So not I don't want anyone throwing mud at me, but you got I just totally empathized with Questlove.
I respect y'all for doing y'all's thing.
No. See, okay, hold up. You gonna respect this. Check it. Yeet, yeet, skirt, yeet, yeet, skirt, skirt, skirt. Roll up, yeet, drop that, yeet, skirt that, yeet, pop that, yeet. Hey. You never loved me, Mom. Oh, yeah.
No. You don't sing like that on the rap record, man.
Because it's these folks talking about just how lyrics are bananas now, right? Like, I feel like it was more, rap opera back in my day. And so it was, who's the guy that's friends with Machine Gun Kelly? Why am I blocking on his name? He dates all the celebrities. Pete Davidson.
Pete Davidson. Yeah.
So Pete Davidson was pretending to be like a modern rapper, and like, so Questlove was asking him like, so who are your influences? And he was like, he didn't really have any, it's just like kind of talking about like how there's no connection,
right.
The classic hip hop, and then they were making fun of Questlove for being on Yo Gabba Gabba. It's just like,
oh Lord,
the whole skit. Maybe I'll send you the link so you can put it in the show notes.
I definitely check it out and just throw it up in there.
And then Questlove ultimately gets so upset he just slaps him in the face. It's so funny, which is so out of character for Questlove.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's a great skit.
Yeah, I know a lot of people like because just like when we say like it's crazy that they were saying certain things like that and stuff like that, but I kind of like when it comes to music, it's kind of like audio movies to me. Like, yes, I see so much craziness in movies and horror and gang violence. And then like with music, it's just like an audio movie as well. Like, so you can expect and anticipate to hear all types of stuff and see, visually. I don't understand how some get so wrapped up in when it's audio. Like it's the same thing. Like I hear like some people that just hate rap, but they love like soprano movies.
Yeah,
something
that
like
part
that.
I get.
Yeah.
And some of it I think is age related, right? Like I just, I've gotten tired of songs that are about excess. And I just don't, like I look back, actually just on the way here, I was listening to Dead Prez and like those songs have meaning.
Right, right.
And like, I meant, how many times can you hear about how many cars and chains?
Yeah.
But that's just me. I mean,
totally
each
understand.
your own. Art is art. So if it resonates with you,
Yeah, it has an audience. I'm just not part of that audience,
yeah.
and I don't have no problem with people who are part of that audience.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we get too far,
Sure.
I want to know how many days it took you to do the Iron Man challenge.
What do you mean? How, like the training?
No, like the actual event.
Oh, it's the cutoff is 17 hours.
17 hours.
I came in 11th to last, so I finished 16 hours 40 minutes.
Man,
Awesome. That's awesome.
But
Like-
you did it.
Yeah, because there's I think obviously it doesn't attract a huge crowd, but there are at least dozens, if not close to 100 of folks that don't finish.
Right.
So like
I'm sure.
Anyways,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even shifting gears again now, because we've been faced with a lot of different things. Like you're seeing all this, a lot of divisiveness currently in this world that we live in. Like events like we're constantly seeing like the Colin Kaepernick thing with NFL. We've seen this. Joe Rogan went through a little episode where people was dissecting things that he said, and more recently we got the Kyrie Irving situation where things just went haywire with him. Now, and a lot of times we tend to try to pick things apart that someone's saying instead of like literally listening to what they're saying. Like we so focus on something negative instead of literally what they're saying. Now, when it comes to the fun habit and your type of ideology, what do you think about those type of events and how can people kind of like handle those situations better?
I don't know that I'm qualified to answer that question. I mean, I think there's big ideas, and I would fall back on sharing the wisdom of Jon Stewart. Like I think it just requires broader conversations with groups and a lot of empathy. And it is interesting in the context, I'm going to sidestep the question, but like, there's tactical things. And so you need to kind of, pull the meat from the bone is often, what I say. And then, you look at the broader picture, like, is there evil behind it? Right. Or is there good? And so that's the lens I tend. But what I will say to at least address it is that I don't listen to any of that. Because we're in such a soundbite world, all of that is meant to sort of trigger, an emotional response. And I have kind of this Teflon against doom scrolling now.
Yeah.
I have apps on my phone and on my Chrome browser that block all that garbage.
Yeah.
I think if it's important, someone will write a piece that shows both sides, so that I can make an educated guess. But every time I fall victim to being like, oh, that's interesting, to your point, like you're not getting the whole picture. And so my antidote to that is to just not listen to any of it.
Yeah.
Now,
So true. The reason I asked about it, because I know you had a piece in the book too about Ahmaud Arbery.
Yeah.
Now, can you give us a little insight
did
about?
Tom tell you about that? Did Tom tell you about that?
I heard that you wrote a piece about Ahmaud Arbery.
But reading it here in the studio, I had a panic attack because I relived it. So I'll try not to do that here. No, but as a runner, that just affected me deeply. And it was during COVID when we had, as a community of runners, right?
Yeah.
So transcend race, but as someone that was just trying to run. And so he's part of our tribe, and that happened.
Yeah.
Try not to cry.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. So I went to go do it, do the run that he was supposed to do. Cause that's, we'd all kind of got together, say that's what we were going to do. And, and I fell apart because I was all by myself, which we were supposed to do right during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know how to process it. I was just like, the world is shitty right now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I agree.
So I think, in that regard, it's a little bit different because you were talking about salient sort of, things that are meant to be provocative and get people pissed off, right? Like that was just an atrocity, and I was trying to process it myself.
Right.
And so what I write about in the book is I think, it's clear that loneliness, however it comes to you, and I was just feeling lonely in that moment because I couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
That, trying to mitigate that becomes extremely important, especially if you're trying to unpack things. I'm coming from a white male, right? So I didn't understand it,
Right.
but I had empathy for what was going on, and I didn't have, anyone to share it with, and I just fell apart.
Yeah. And you said something important there, like he was part of a tribe. And that's where I think people have to really take the divisiveness away, because literally have someone part of your tribe, that don't mean they have to look like you. They don't have to speak like you. All they have to do is have some things in common with you. I feel like everything, like all of us should be like literally a tribe. Just take away all the, things that try to separate, because if you really look at it, so much more we got in common than we, have differences. And also differences just make things better and more interesting, learning perspectives and stuff. So,
well, and I think that's a good strategy, again, to get out of the weird headspace of that moment. But, is how, whenever you're trying to build a bridge, like what is those commonalities, right? Because we all have them. Like, again, it goes back to that construct we talked earlier, good and bad, right? Like we all have differences, and you could celebrate those too, right? But if you are trying to make something more fun, again, to your point, this is a broad-based sort of recommendation, but trying to figure out what that is. So like in the book, it's a little bit different, but it's still social glue. Like, can you figure out how, whoever you're trying to engage with, can you start laughing? Because laughing is like such a neat sort of social cue. Like, hey, there's something that we can agree on because we're, enjoying this moment, as long as it's not nervous laughter.
Right. Yep.
But so like, what is it? Again, in that case, it was running. Unfortunately, that was, something that we shared that ended up being this horrible thing. But again, if you can share something with somebody, it's generally a great way to start to like build a bond with that person. So I agree with you wholeheartly.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. Now, I got a question, man.
Yeah, please.
Seen somewhere that you might have been on Baywatch.
I wasn't on Baywatch. I worked on Baywatch.
Oh, you worked on it.
Yeah.
So what was your job?
Just sweeping the floors, man.
Man, so you were there episode by episode.
Yeah.
Were you a single man?
I was a single man.
Did you have to sweep your mouth off the floor?
Man, I imagine that was a good time. Yeah, it was good. I have two. So right out of college, I started in entertainment, and so if you look me up on IMDb, that was it. And then my next gig was actually working on the movie Life with Martin Lawrence and Eddie Murphy.
Get out of here!
Yeah. So I got to meet both of them. I got to meet Bernie Mac.
Oh my God! I wish I could have met. He was like he was amazing to me.
So when I say I met Eddie Murphy and Martin, I was like, oh, there they are. So, but Bernie was cool, man. Like he would come and eat, in the tent with all of us.
That's cool.
And he was just always cracking jokes, and that dude was solid, man. I mean, rest in peace.
Yeah, for sure. Rest in peace, Bernie Mac, legend.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, there's some people that are just infectious. I think Eddie is a professional, and I get the sense he's a really good guy. Like you don't hear bad things about him. And Martin has problems that I think people love him, but he's obviously gone through some stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
But what I know of Bernie is like he just didn't. He was one of those. It kind of goes into the last question. Like just everybody he touched, he had this commonality. Where like you were just rolling.
Yeah, you immediately became part of his tribe.
Yeah. More people need to be like that.
Yeah, I believe so. So, like, what's some of the one of the most fun experience you can think of that you experienced? It could be like travel or a time that just comes to your mind. Like, yo, that was an amazing time.
Yeah, I think for me, it's anything that takes me. So I talk about this in the book. I think you need to live a joyful life, but having these opportunities for spontaneity, are what really like those rich moments, right? And so it was a time where I didn't have a lot of money, but I was like, I would just really want to do this. So I took everything I had, and I went to Antarctica. And
wow,
yeah. So, and I ended up meeting people that were the same way, like, just kind of these digital nomads that were living paycheck to paycheck, but like wanted this just crazy experience. And so we all bonded, and we're still friends to this day. And but I think when you go into things that like broaden your worldview, like wait a second, like again, this is kind of get deep, right? But we live in this world that's essentially made up by us, right? And so we live in micro environments of it, but we think the world is a collection of the ideology of the folks that influence us, right?
Right.
And like, even though we're, big concepts like money and government, at the end of the day, they're important constructs to, how we live, because we can't live without money, without rules, people do bad stuff.
Right.
But we still made all this stuff up. It was still, someone decided, hey, this piece of paper, we're all going to agree, right? So you do something that like kind of connects you either to your own spirituality or nature. In this case, for me, it was nature, but just something that's like makes you feel small.
Right.
Like those moments to me are like, because then you realize your problems aren't as big as, they were essentially, created by somebody else.
Yeah. So true.
Yeah.
So true.
And so those are the times I like, because they make time slow down for me. Like, and I'm just realize I'm not as important as I thought I was.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe a little bit deeper than you were looking for, but
oh no, hey, that was perfect. That was perfect.
Have you ever went skydiving?
I have, yeah.
How was it? Because I want to do it.
Yeah. So again, I couldn't afford it here in the States, and so I traveled for a little bit, backpacking. It's a shame, again, product of the 90s. Like there, we had this thing, as a student, you could find all these really cheap tickets. They're just and travel hacking's a thing now, but it still requires like being. Anyways, sorry, I won't get into that. Travel hacking's probably for a different episode.
Yeah.
But so I was in New Zealand, and in New Zealand, you can't. It's a lot harder to sue. So jumping was like $35.
Oh, wow.
Get out of here.
Yeah. At the time in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
So
pretty cheap though.
Yeah, it was really cheap. And so I wanted to do it enough times that I could jump, pulling my own ripcord and with my own chute packed. And that was 6, and that was about what I could afford. So it was amazing, man.
That's awesome.
But the crazy thing, I would suggest doing it twice, because, well, if you go tandem, I don't think this happens, but certainly your first jump where you're essentially like telling your brain, I'm going to kill you, you get what's called sensory overload. And I don't remember the first jump. I was just so out of my mind.
Not enjoying the moment.
And they do what's called, oh man, what's it called? I think you're on a tether, because they know that's going to happen, And so it's essentially like it's not a bungee. It's what you use to wrap your truck when you have boxes, and what's that line that's like it's a tether, right?
It's not a tether. I can't think.
But
of
what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And so it pulls your chute for you, because you're not going to be.
Yeah.
And there's a second safety on anyone that jumps that pulls your chute anyways if you get too close to the ground.
So when you did it, you didn't have a person strapped to you.
No, I never done tandem.
I think they make the person get back down.
Yeah, in the States they've gotten really regulated. Yeah. And I think I'm pretty sure it's a couple $100 a jump, right? Because
like $250 or something.
They need to buy insurance.
He's really been doing his research.
I'm going to do it.
He's really going to do it.
It's amazing.
I'll watch. I'm going to watch.
Nah, come with me, man. Come with me.
Nah, I'm going to watch.
I can't get my wife to go.
I will be moral support. But
I bungee jumped twice too. It was
for some reason I don't trust bungee jumping.
You shouldn't. It's I don't think I'd ever do it again. But it was big in New Zealand. And then, but the second time I did it from a balloon, and that was bananas.
What do you mean from a balloon?
The helium balloon.
From a hot air balloon.
Yeah.
And so you pull down the balloon. So it's not just that feel like, so off a bridge, right? You're like, okay, I'm safe. Off a balloon, it keeps pulling the balloon down, and you're like,
oh,
it's crazy.
It bounces and just, yeah, that is wild. That is wild.
Hey.
It sounds very interesting and fun, though. like when you're given the explanation of it. I want to go to Antarctica now. Like these are definitely in the mindset you have to like, okay, I'm going to sacrifice, my last to be able to do something that I want to enjoy. And that's why I think like this book is just so important. Like, so can you tell the people how they can find the book, The Fun Habit, and just how they can, just dive into this particular type of, ideology, just making their lives.
I appreciate that. So it's available wherever you buy books. So, Amazon, but I always say support your local bookstore if you can. And I, write about the science of fun at michaelrucker.com. And then I know a lot of folks from Greensboro listen to this. If you're a local, I'll be speaking at Greensboro Bound in May. I believe it's from the 19th to the 21st. I don't know when I'm scheduled to go on, but it's a big, convention of authors. And so, you can look that up online. But I appreciate the opportunity to let people know about it.
Absolutely. We appreciate you joining us. And it's just, it was so impactful from what you spoke about today. I appreciate your time. And I just know a lot of people can just gain so much from this book. So make sure you tune in, make sure you support it. I know you have that event coming up. I'll put the date in the description below. And all of Mike's information will be directly down below. So definitely follow everything he got going on. He's awesome. So I appreciate
thank you so much.
Yes, sir. So until next time, you guys hold it down. Don't let it hold you. Peace.
Peace now.
The Highest Point Podcast.
More than a pod, it's a lifestyle.